As a renter, I know most of us struggle with color palettes and trying to find that balance in having your space feel personal while still making it temporary. So in today's lesson, I am going to teach you how to choose a color palette that will work for you for a lifetime. If you are a renter and you're looking to update your living room, then I want to invite you to join the LRA Living Room Refresh Workshop. In this workshop, I'm going to provide you with a 38-page ebook as well as a 15 step-by-step living room decorating guide that's in video format, and you're going to get access to all of my videos in a categorized fashion so that you can skip to any parts of the home that you might need and you don't have to sift through YouTube. So if you do not have the time to run around the internet snatching up all of the tips and ideas and you want a straightforward checklist and guide on how to get from point A to point B in your design, then join the workshop. The link will be located in the comments and in the description down below. So to jump this lesson off, I want to start by telling you guys a little bit about my apartment journey. So when I first moved into this apartment, I was tasked with these awful vanilla colored walls, and they were in all of the bedrooms. I couldn't figure out why. I just didn't like the apartment. It just never looked bright and airy. Everything looked dingy, and it was because of the wall color. So that was problem number one. Okay, so problem number two was my beige taupe tile flooring that I had going all throughout this place. It was not the color tile that I would have chosen, but not to mention that it was dirty. So that was problem number two. And then not to mention the dingy white paint that was in the common living spaces, and the fact that my living room lacked any color. All you see is silver and gold. It almost looks like Christmas in here. So these were the issues that I had when I first moved in. If you're new here, hi, my name is Wayna and I make rental-friendly interior design videos. So if you haven't seen any of the videos on my channel, I suggest you to take a look because everything is about being rental-friendly. All right, let's jump into the video. So now I'm going to share my solutions with you so you can see exactly how I turned these lemons into lemonade. So starting with my laundry room, I was able to transform one wall using a sample size of paint that I purchased from the hardware store. The paint was from Behr and it only cost me about $4.50. So if you are in a pinch and you want to do something creative, you could do something similar to this, as well as use a stencil and create a design using just $4.50 sample paint. So that was my first fix for my boring, dull walls. The next wall that I tackled was in the living room. I went with this black accent wall, which has been a showstopper, and it made a big difference just because everything else was so white. Now I do want to point out that, can you guys see the fact that I took the paint all the way down to the floor? If you don't have very grand baseboards and you want to paint an accent wall, don't leave the trim white unless the trim is actually like a statement trim. So what do I mean by that? If there is, you know, a 6-inch baseboard and it looks modern, well, you want to leave that white because you want to show it off. But something like this, very small and not a lot of detail, you could just paint that and take it all the way down to the ground. And then I added this Subway peel and stick wallpaper to the kitchen. Small, but a big statement. And in the room that I'm sitting in now, I added faux brick wallpaper, and it just gave the room a lot of dimension. It wasn't just a white box. So small things, like I said, make a big difference. Now the last room is my son's room, and I did use some color in here. I ended up painting the entire room halfway up the wall, and it made a big difference. So just a little bit of information about the type of paint that I use. I like to use the Behr Ultra Premium Pure paint, but this particular color is the Ultra Pure White. And I like to use a satin finish in all of my rooms just because it's very durable And the thing I love about satin paint is that it does not highlight all of the imperfections like a semi-gloss or eggshell would. If you live in an outdated apartment, I'm pretty sure that the walls are not the best. So by painting with a satin finish, you are going to kind of let those imperfections fly under the radar. So I left all of the rooms pretty much a neutral color, but this room was different. My son requested some color and we actually used the design as a headboard. So this like acts as a headboard if you can kind of see that. So I was trying to think forward. Okay, when I move out, I didn't want to have to repaint the whole place all the way over. So by painting one wall in each room or simply adding wallpaper, this gives you the ability to have a nice design aesthetic, but you don't have to worry about doing too much repainting or wallpaper removal when it's time for you to move out. So what elements create a neutral palette? A lot of times people like to dive into color. But what you don't realize is that rooms are made up of a neutral palette and then you introduce the color. So I'm going to go over the elements that you guys need to pay attention to when you're looking at rooms, whether it's on Pinterest or Instagram or in your favorite magazine. Pay attention for these elements because they're pretty much in every room design. You want to make sure that you pay attention for black, white, gray, cream, taupe, brown, but not necessarily the color brown. You want to make sure that you paying attention if the room has any wood accents or any brown leathers, and then green, which comes from the plants that you add into the room. All of these elements work together to create a very neutral palette. Okay, so along with neutral colors, there's also materials that add to your color palette, which most people wouldn't pay attention to, but I'm going to give you the tea on exactly how to spot what they are. So metals would be one, and you have a lot of different variety like brass, silver, satin chrome, brushed nickel, gold, black, copper, oil rubbed bronze, and antique bronze. Those are the metals that you can play with. Some of the metals are cool, some of them are warm, but you still need to add them to your space. The next element of materials that you need to consider is glass, mirror, adding textures and patterns. So now I want to talk to you guys about the science behind choosing color. But most importantly, I want to say, you should choose your lighting before you choose your paint colors, because paint looks different based on the color and the temperature of the light. So if you are planning to use daylight bulbs, buy those daylight bulbs first and then choose your paint. It's going to give you exactly what you are looking for, and you'll know exactly how that particular paint is going to respond to that light and if you like it or not. Now, I always like to say that interior design mirrors fashion and beauty. So when you start to think about color, ask yourself, what color clothes do you look best in? And what colors do you love? Like, what do you always gravitate towards? I'm pretty sure you can always add it to any space. So something else that you need to think about with color is that color can change, you know, the vibe and the mood. So if you want something pretty calm, you want to try to use softer colors like your lavenders and any pastel colors. And if you want something very bright and vibrant, you know, maybe a room like my friend Sophie, she has a yellow living room. I mean, when you walk in there, it's just yellow. You can't be sad in her house if you want it to be. But those colors invoke that type of emotion. So just pay attention to how you want that space to feel. Of course, you would probably use something calm in something like a bathroom or a bedroom, and then something bold maybe in a living room where you want to be awake and vivacious and all of that good stuff. Okay, so what do you add to your color palette? How do you come up with the colors? I'm glad you asked. So there's a few different ways to put colors together. The first one is a monochromatic look. And if you're familiar with monochromatic, then it's basically what you see here. It's the same color, but in different variations, like different shades and different hues. So if you want something to be lighter, you just add white to it. If you want something to be darker, you just add black to it. And it's going to give you a wide spectrum of that same color. The next type of color palette that you can go for is an analogous palette, where you would go for colors that are next to each other on the color wheel. So think something like reds or burgundies or anything in the orange family. It's all warm, so they'll marry well together. And then the last one is complementary, meaning that they're on the opposite side of the color wheel. So blue and orange is a really good example, orange and teal, just anything that's cool and warm. So to start off with your palette, choose either a white color or a neutral color, and then go for a saturated color. And then you can choose accent colors that pop around the room, and that's when you can kind of get into that monochromatic or the analogous or the complementary colors. Once you figure out what colors you want to use and what families you want to stay in, whether you want to go warm or cool, then now you need to figure out what your undertones are in your space. So undertones can be warm, cool, or neutral. Kind of like when you're going to check for foundation, right? They want to know what's your undertone. Same thing applies in interior design. So here is an example of the color wheel showing you what's cold and what's warm, as well as showing you some basic colors, as well as different finishes, like gold would be warm, your creams would be warm, any type of browns or taupes, all in a warm family. And the same is true for any grays or whites or blacks. They all can give you a cool vibe. But sometimes black, if used with the right colors, can give you a warm feeling also. All right, so how does this apply to you? Well, you have to assess your existing wall color, your existing floor color, furniture, accessories, lighting. What are the undertones in your space? That is very important. Before you start to put together a color palette and, buy new things, you need to take an assessment of the things that you're going to keep and know what the undertones are. So if you are working with a very warm colored wall and your floors are warm also, you may want to consider either painting the walls or covering the floors, vice versa. Also, if you have a very warm colored couch, you may want to opt to go with something cooler on the walls just to give it that contrast. If not, you're going to have a very, very, very warm room. And if that's not what you're going for, then you won't be happy about it. All right, so when it comes to picking colors, you want to try to stay in a family. And I spoke about this earlier in the presentation, but I'm going to give you an example of red. So if you like red, don't go for Christmas red. Try to stick with colors that's in the red family, like your pinks, burgundies, fuchsias, anything like that. Just something that's in that family that will marry together well. And it just gives you a very interesting space to look at. So here's a few pictures of my current decor in my apartment. I haven't shared this yet, but currently I have these velvet burgundy curtains, and I found this really cute picture at Home Goods, as well as these really cute vases from Hobby Lobby. And I got these from Hobby Lobby also. But just adding these and a few accent pillows has really made my space look very colorful, even though my space is not. If I take all of these things down, I literally have a very neutral room. And so I'm going to show you guys exactly what I mean. And then I just also wanted to mention that you need to keep it on the light side. If you are in a small apartment, the last thing you want to do is paint your walls a very dark and rich color. You may get away with painting one wall, but if you were to paint an entire room black, that room would feel so small. So you want to stay away from that. And then also, you should keep your furniture neutral, so that way you can use it over time. And then if you want to change out any accessories to create a different look, then you have the option to do that also. So are you still lost? Okay, if you are, I want to tell you about the 60-30-10 rule. Follow this and you'll be okay. So 60% of your room should be in your dominant color that you choose. So whatever neutral that is, 60%. 30% should be in your secondary color. So if you're going for that red or that burgundy, then you could do 30% of that. And then 10% should be in the accent color. So for me, it was the little pops of pink. So that was my 10%. So just by making these few edits, you will be amazed at how cohesive your room looks. So by now you should see that it is very easy to add some color and personality into your rental space, and you should know the science behind what to add into your space and why to add it. Just remember that a color palette is not about color per se. It's more about complementing the elements in the room. And some of these things can be changed, like your sofas or your throw pillows, but some cannot. If you have an apartment that has ugly flooring, sometimes you just have to learn how to complement it with paint or lighting or something of that nature. But I hope that I illustrated to you that no matter what your place looks like, you have some options. All right. So I'll see you in the next upload. And as always, don't forget, be you, be beautiful, be chic. Later, boo.